What's going on, 3DMJers? My name's Eric Helms. I'm the head of R&D, Chief Research Officer, Chief Science Officer, if you like Star Trek, for 3D Muscle Journey. And I just want to introduce you to this great video. This is the first chapter of our new course that's entirely free called Sustainable Fat Loss by our registered dietitian, Steve Taylor. And it's comprehensive. It's the most thorough course on nutritional tracking, behaviors, and sustainable changes we have. And that's why we want to share this first video, which is specifically about how to track your macronutrients. And it's a very comprehensive way of doing it. Now, to give you a little more background about 3D Muscle Journey, we primarily work with competitive natural athletes in the weightlifting environment, both in bodybuilding and powerlifting. So most of our content is geared towards that, helping competitors find a sustainable way towards success and having a long-term career in their sport of choice. But this is really great for anyone, whether you're a recreational lifter or whether you're a competitive lifter. This course will teach you everything you need to know about the emotional state you might need to be in to support the outcomes we're trying to teach you and to get those behaviors locked down. Now, the video that you're about to watch is just the first chapter of that. It's specifically on tracking. So it's a great kickstart for anyone who's just getting into this and teaches you the basics in a thorough manner of how to really nail that and get it down. So I hope you enjoy this video. Check it out, and to see the full course, which goes into emotional management, habit development, and making sustainable changes to your behavior, check out the 3DMJ Vault and sign up for this totally free course to see Steve lay it down. And you can check that out in the comments below. Thank you for watching.
Hi, I'm Steve Taylor, the registered dietitian for 3D Muscle Journey, and welcome to Sustainable Fat Loss. This course is designed for people who want to lose weight and keep it off long term. It's not a nutrition and exercise prescription course, but rather it's designed to work with those types of systems. So rather you're going through my 6-month sustainable fat loss program, or you're following nutrition and exercise prescriptions you read in a book or something you received from another coach or another healthcare professional, you can use the material we cover in this course in conjunction with those prescriptions to assist you in achieving and maintaining your fat loss goals. In the first chapter of this course, we're going to cover the nuts and bolts of how to track your food intake. If you're already competent in this skill, feel free to skip ahead to the next chapter. If you're new to tracking, if you've tried to learn the process before but you're still a bit confused, or if you've been tracking for a while but you still have questions about how to track different foods or how to track in certain scenarios, keep watching. My goal is that by the end of this chapter, you will have a clear understanding of how to easily and accurately track your food intake. To track your food intake, you'll need two tools: a food scale and a food tracking app. In regard to food scales, there's a bunch of different models out there. However, based on personal experience and feedback from clients, I would suggest you get a digital food scale compared to the traditional spring-loaded kind, and one that can weigh in both grams and ounces. Another personal preference of mine are the types of scales like this one, where the entire top surface functions as a scale, compared to the type which just have a raised weighing platform. This type gives you a much larger base to weigh food on. In regard to tracking apps, again, there's a bunch of different tracking apps out there. I'm going to go through this tutorial using the most popular free one, MyFitnessPal. However, feel free to use a different one if you'd like. Obviously, if you use a different tracking app, the interface will be different and some of the functions will be different, but the actual tracking process we're about to cover in this video will remain virtually the same. To get started, the first thing you need to do is set up your MyFitnessPal account. MyFitnessPal is the tool you are going to use to keep track of your food intake. Go into the App Store on your phone and download the free version of MyFitnessPal. Once the app has finished downloading, open it up, create your username and password, then go through the initial startup steps. One important thing I want to mention, which can be confusing, are the MyFitnessPal recommendations. Based on the information you submit, MyFitnessPal will automatically assign you a recommended calorie, protein, fat, and carbohydrate intake. Ignore these recommendations. Your specific calorie, protein, fat, and carbohydrate targets will come from whichever specific program or person you are working with. When it comes to tracking a certain food, there are 3 things we need to know. 1, we have to know the calorie and or macronutrient composition of one serving of that food. The specific information that you need to know, so whether you need to know just calories or you need to know calories and protein or all the macronutrients, the specific information that you need to know will be dependent upon the system, the nutrition system that you are following. Number 2, we need to know what a serving size is, and number 3, we need to know how many servings we just consumed. Depending on the information that you have available, you will use different methods to track different foods. To illustrate how to track in different situations, I'm going to walk through how to track these 5 different foods. These 5 foods represent 5 different scenarios. The first scenario is where you have the nutrition facts label and where the food is already pre-portioned for you. A good example is this bread. The second scenario is where you have the nutrition facts label, but the food is not pre-portioned for you, like this brown rice. The third scenario is where you do not have the nutrition facts label and where the food is not pre-portioned for you, like this apple. The last 2 scenarios are examples of foods that were prepared outside of your control. One being from a well-known source where it's a bit easier to find the nutrition information, for example, this Wendy's sandwich. And the last category, the most difficult or the most challenging to track, is where the food was prepared outside of your control by a source that was not well known. So to start off, let's look at the first category, which is where you have the nutrition facts information and where the food is already pre-portioned for you. The serving size, that's the first thing we want to look at. It says serving size equals 1 slice. This means that if we consume 1 slice of bread, we've consumed this much fat, this much protein, this many calories, and all this different stuff. If we consume 2 slices of bread, that means all of this nutritional information just doubled. So to track this bread, we have 3 different options. We have the 3 things that we need to know. So we have the nutrition information right here. We have the serving size because it's located right there on the label. And in our example, let's just say we consumed 1 slice of bread. The first way we can track this bread, and the easiest way, is to go into MyFitnessPal, click Add Food, and there's a little icon that represents a barcode. Click that. And then from there, you scan the label. All you would do from here is you would just verify that the nutrition information that appears on the MyFitnessPal screen matches or comes close to what's on the actual nutrition facts label of the food. So in this example, it lines up perfectly. So all we would do would be to adjust the number of servings, which in our scenario is 1, and track it. That's the easiest way. A second way we could track this bread is to go into the MyFitnessPal database. So add food. Up the top you see it says search food. So in the food we type in, let's see, cinnamon, raisin, and then Food for Life is the brand. And search that. From there, click on the top one, and we would just verify that the nutrition information matches or comes close to the nutrition information that's on the label. In this situation, it pretty much matches. It's a tiny bit different, 1 carb different, but it's very close, and the calories align, so we would log it. The third way we can track this bread, so the first is to scan the label, second way is to search the database. The third way is to create a custom food. So from here, add food, click on My Foods, and create a food. From here you would just type in the brand name, which is Food for Life. Description, which is cinnamon, raisin, bread. Serving size is 1 slice. And then servings per container really doesn't matter, so I just type in 1 there. From there you would just add in the calories, which are right here on the label for us. So 80. Carbs, 19. protein 3, fat 0.5, and fiber, which is 2. Other than those categories, calories, protein, fat, carbs, and fiber, I wouldn't worry about adding in any of the other information unless you want to. The second category of food is where we have the nutrition information, so we have the nutrition facts label right there on the food, but the food is not pre-portioned. So with the bread, we didn't need to use a food scale because it was essentially already pre-portioned for us. In this example, we need to use something to measure out or to portion out the food. So from here, what you would do is you would look at the nutrition facts label and you would see what a serving size is, and then you would look at the nutrition information. Then, based on your individual needs and your hunger level and the nutrition information of the food, you would decide how many servings you want to eat. So just to keep things simple, let's say we want 1 serving. What we would do is we would put the bowl on the food scale, make sure it's tared to 0, and then weigh out 48 grams. Of rice. One thing I want to mention is the serving size. In most cases, when you're looking at a nutrition facts label and you're looking at a serving size, that serving size is in reference to the way the food is in its current state. So for this brown rice, it says 48 grams is 1 serving. That's talking about 1 serving of uncooked brown rice in the box, not 48 grams of cooked rice. So in most situations, it will be for how the food is in its current state. So if you buy meat and it says 4 ounces is a serving, that means that nutrition information is equal to 4 ounces of raw, uncooked meat. And that's true for pasta, it's true for oats, pretty much everything. So now that we have the brown rice weighed out and portioned out, we would simply log it using one of the 3 methods that we use to track the bread. We would either scan the nutrition facts label, we would search the MyFitnessPal database, or would create a custom food. Again, once we have the information, adjust the number of servings and then log it. The third scenario is where the food is not pre-portioned and we do not have the nutrition facts information. A great example is this apple here. What you would need to do then, since you do not have the nutrition information, is you would need to go somewhere else to get the nutrition information. This is where food databases come in handy. So this is a food database. I have apples raw with skin pulled up. What you would do is, depending on the nutrition system that you're following and how they want you to track fruits and vegetables, you would go to serving size, click on this little bar here, and select the option that you want to use to create a food. So for example, let's say you want to make per 100 grams. Click on 100 grams. And then you would scroll down and you would use this nutrition information to create a custom food just like we did for the bread a few minutes ago. On the databases, they get very specific with the nutrition information, so what I would suggest would be to round the nearest 0.5 gram. So for example, here it says protein is 0.3, I would just make that 0.5, fat is 0.2, you could go to 0 or 0.5. Total carbohydrates, make that 14, and fiber 2.5. Again, on the custom food, all I would worry about would be calories, protein, fat, carbs, and dietary fiber. The second way we can track this apple is to do what we did for the bread, and that is to search the MyFitnessPal database for it. You would go into MyFitnessPal, add food, search for food, type in apple raw with skin. Search. So as you'll see, there are a ton of different options that come up that all say apple raw with skin. This is where things get a little more confusing because when we did this for the bread, we had the nutrition information right there on the label to verify. With this apple, we don't have the information. And I should clarify, for this second way of tracking the apple, we're pretending that we didn't just look up all the information on an online database. We're pretending that all we did was weigh the apple, or we looked at the apple and got a size estimation or a weight, and then we went to MyFitnessPal and searched for it this way. In the next scenario, and in the next 2 scenarios, we will cover how to navigate this database to help you make the most accurate estimation possible. Between the two options, if the food is something you eat on a consistent basis, so for example, let's say this apple is something you eat every day or multiple times a week or a few times a month. If it's something you're going to eat consistently, I would recommend making your own custom food entry compared to searching the database. The reason I say that is the database is the MyFitnessPal database is a phenomenal tool because it has pretty much every food you could ever want in there. The issue is the listings are user created, which means that the accuracy of a listing is dependent upon the information that the individual used to create the listing. If the person used inaccurate information to create a listing, then that listing would be inaccurate if you use it. So if it's something you're going to be logging consistently, we want to make sure we're consistently logging accurate information. So in that situation, that's why it's helpful to have your own custom created food, because then you know the information is accurate. It only takes a couple of minutes to make your own custom food, and then you have it from then on as long as you want to use it. If it's something that you only eat maybe once a month or you think you may never eat again, then in that situation, I would say just go into MyFitnessPal and search the database. Yeah, it might be a bit inaccurate, but it's only one time or very rarely, and so in the end, it's not going to make that big of a difference. These last two scenarios are examples of foods that were prepared outside of our control. It's important to note that in these situations, regardless of which method we use, the information that we log is only going to be an estimation. It will not be perfect, and it doesn't need to be. The most important thing is consistency over time. All we can do in these situations is use the information and the resources we have available and combine that with our level of knowledge of food at that time to help us make the best estimation possible. Let's look at the Wendy's chicken sandwich. This is an example of a food that was prepared outside of your control by a well-known source. In these situations, even though it was prepared outside of your control, because it's from a well-known source, it's much easier to find the nutrition information for that food. There's a few ways we can log it. The first way we can log this food is we can see if the restaurant supplies the nutrition information for their food either on the menu, on their website, or on a separate pamphlet. If they do, you can create a custom food for that meal using the information provided by the restaurant. The second way we can track this food is to search the MyFitnessPal database for it. For example, I would go into Add Food, search for food, and type in Wendy's grilled chicken sandwich. Search. And see if anything pops up. If the food is from a well-known restaurant like Wendy's, most of the time something will. Click on the description that matches closest to what you are having and use your knowledge of nutrition and food at that time to determine if you think the nutrition information in that selection is an accurate estimation. If you think that it is, use that. If you do not think the information is accurate, try a different choice until you find one that you think is accurate. You'll notice that some foods have a green check mark next to them. What this means is that MyFitnessPal believes that the nutrition information for that listing is accurate. This is not a guarantee of accuracy, and some foods that have a green check mark have inaccurate information. However, this system at least helps you increase the probability that the information you are logging is accurate. The last scenario we're going to look at is an example of a food that was prepared outside of your control by someone or somewhere that is not well known. For example, these street tacos. Another great example of a food in this category is a homemade meal. So if your spouse or mom or dad makes something for you at home, this category of food, you're not going to be able to find the specific nutrition information for it in MyFitnessPal like you could for Wendy's. What we would do in this situation, what I would typically do, is I would look at the food and I would say, okay, there's 2 tacos. I would look at the type of meat. I would look at what's on the tacos, and I would just use my level of knowledge of food at that time to help me make the best estimation possible. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't need to be. So I would just type in the database, 2 tacos, 2 beef tacos, and whatever else is on there. The same thing if you're having a homemade meal. Just type in the the description of what you're eating and use your level of knowledge at that time. So even though the information is not going to be 100% accurate, there are still two main benefits to tracking it. Number one, it keeps us accountable. What can happen in these situations where someone doesn't know the exact nutrition information is they can tend to fall into the mindset that, well, I don't know the exact information, so I might as well not track it at all. And in that situation, the person ends up eating significantly more food than they would have had they just tracked something. Number two, these tacos definitely aren't calorie free. So even if our estimation is only 50% accurate, that 50% accuracy is still much more accurate than 0% accuracy. Learning to track is a process. It takes time actually doing it, along with exposure to a variety of experiences to truly master it. That said, most people find that if they really commit to developing this skill, within as little as 2 weeks, they feel very comfortable with the tracking process. A common question is, do I have to track calories forever? And the answer is no. Tracking is like training wheels. Tracking teaches you so much about food, serving sizes, their respective calorie content, and your personal needs. This thorough understanding of food and your body, combined with newly formed behaviors, beliefs, among other things, will allow you to maintain your new body weight and new health with much greater ease than what it took to achieve them. Most people find that once they've tracked for a while and once they've reached their goals, that they no longer need to track unless they decide to strive for further weight loss and want a closer method of accountability. And what's great is, if for whatever reason you do decide to track again, you'll already know how.